Okay, now we are. Hello, this is Brent Leary. It is noon Eastern on Friday. I think this is May 9th. Beautiful day in Atlanta, I have to say that. And I must apologize first and foremost before we get started with our small biz trends breakdown show here. I am going to apologize because it has just been brought to my attention that I'm wearing the same hat that I did last week. And I really feel bad about that. I mean, I have a lot of Rams hats. There is really no excuse for me wearing the same one 2 weeks in a row, but I will make this promise to you. It's a solemn promise. As God is my witness, I will not wear this hat next Friday. Okay, with all of that said, let's have some fun with what happened this week. Let's go to Leland in Oregon to see what's going on out there.
Hey, Brent. It's good to be on. It's good to be in a Friday, ready for the weekend, ready for a little bit of sun. And I'll let you know, I didn't notice that you were wearing this hat at the same time, the same hat twice in a week. You could have not said a word, and I
Trying to
wouldn't
be
have
honest.
noticed.
I have to be honest. I actually just came from Las Vegas at a conference, and this was the hat I was wearing out there too. I don't know. I just kind of like this hat, but I will
Wear it.
put it to rest.
Wear it proudly.
I'll put it to rest because I've got like over 100 other ones. So we'll move on. We're going to move on to our nation's capital, where Shashi is. Shashi, how's things going in our nation's capital?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing very well. And following me will be a next energetic person, I think. So I'm trying to be as energetic as everybody else, but
Hmm.
a little bit less sunny today in the nation's capital, but business as usual.
Speaking of a little less sunny, it's Mr. Ice. No, I had to do that because Shashi thought he knew where I was going next. So you tipped your hand, and I took advantage of it, Shashi. Well, I have to say, I definitely like the T-shirt the icy one is wearing. Yeah, it looks pretty good. What's going on
Yay.
across county?
Hey, it's a beautiful day, like you said, and I appreciate you making penance for the hat. So fantastic.
Well, since we do have a new pope, making pins, although I'm not Catholic at all, but I can do that. I can do that. And I can also introduce, last but certainly not least today, a lot is going on up there in that New Jersey, New York area. I'm just glad he's not flying because that could be kind of a messy situation. But he is Ramon Ray. Hey, Ramon.
What's up, Brent? Good to be here. Good to be here. What's up, Leland? What's up, Shashi? What's up, John? And Brent, I'm glad you started off the show making penance for your hat. Just no, really, because even earlier today, I was thinking, what hat will actually last night before I went to bed, I was thinking, what hat will Brent wear? And I was looking for the different hat. Talking to my wife this morning during our breakfast as we have a walk in the park for about 4 hours every day. We were talking, what hat will he wear? For a client call I had today, $1 billion contract. That's what we talked about. So it's just, point is, Brent, a lot of discussions have been today, and my heart was sad. I'm not happy about the hat you're wearing. That's the bottom line. So there's what it is.
I can accept that. I take full responsibility. But at least I'm wearing this nice CRM Players. What am I?
That is true.
Logo shirt. So I got that off.
Very, 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 very dapper.
Thank you, sir. And shout out to Evana Taylor, who is not able to join us this week, but we always want to make sure we shout her out when she's not able to do so. All right. And because she kind of requested this, I'm going to start off like I used to start things off with a little trivia question for you guys.
Oh, my God.
I know Ramon and John really love this stuff. So I'm just glad I can make up for it a little bit with, because of the hat thing. So here we go. And this actually, see, one of you should actually get this right because one of you sent me a link and I found this stat in the article that you sent me the link to. So as of last month, around blankety blank blank million people were using ChatGPT on a weekly basis. What's your best guess as to how many people were using ChatGPT on a weekly
I
basis?
know. I'll go last.
All right, you go last since you should know.
I should, but
Okay,
you
how
never
about this?
know.
Brent, can I just say, and I don't want to derail the whole show and, just make the whole show go down, but Brent, can some of these stats you provide context to? Like, since John knows, if he could say something like 500 million people use the Edge browser, just some context of, then we can start thinking, because it's so broad. I don't know what this number is. I'll guess, of course.
Well,
but
come on. Let me give you a
But this
little.
is just a broad number.
I'll give you a little hint.
thank you.
Facebook, I think, is what 2.3 billion. active?
Okay, thank you. That's a good context. Okay.
So, given that,
Yeah.
What you guess?
I'm going to say 100 million.
Okay, 100 million.
Yeah.
Ramon is on the board. 100 million. Shashi, Leland,
400 million.
Leland.
That was a very good guess, Shashi. I'll do 582 million.
You
Ooh.
always gotta have a 2 at the end. This is like either 42, 140. All right, so 582.
Yeah, well,
So we got 100. We got 400. We got 582.
And 600.
600. Boy, you are. And you're the one that sent me the article. So I know you didn't read the whole damn thing because
I
it
don't
was
know.
400 million.
Shashi.
Not the one
Shashi.
that, see, not the one I read.
That's the article you sent me over about AI
did.
being a threat to Google search. That
Interesting.
was in that article.
Oh no, okay, yeah, there's a different article.
Oh,
there's a different- Because
had
well,
happened?
anyway. So what did happen is that number doubled almost to 600 million when they released the image generation because of all the people trying to make their images. So yes, it was around there, and then it.
Yeah, that's a nice way to describe how you didn't get the right thing from the article you sent me. But we will digress. And Shashi, I don't know. I think Shashi has some sort of, when he sees these questions, he can do it without typing, some kind of mind meld with his computer, so that he can get the answer without looking like he's.
I think he has the Ray-Ban contacts. That's what I think he has.
Are you surprised? I mean, that 400 million. I mean, when you think about it, I don't know how long it took like Facebook to get to those numbers, but it seems like I was actually a little bit surprised it wasn't more. But it's weekly, not monthly. It is weekly. So
Yeah,
that's,
it's weekly.
that's pretty significant.
Yeah, I only know this because I did some research on how companies should prepare for AI-driven search. So just following these numbers pretty closely.
Wait, let's shout out the Musical Web. What a name. I like that.
Hey,
Yeah,
Ayanna. Thanks for being here, Ayanna. Ayanna has an amazing company, Musical Web, which teaches people how to play piano online.
I thought her name was actually Musical Web. But
Well, that's the last name. Her first name is Ayanna. Last name is the Musical Web. Ayanna, the Musical Web.
I like it either way. Thanks for being here, and please feel free to add to the conversation. All right, let me get rid of this. I see. John be sending me stuff. He ain't even looking at it. I don't know. That's quite disconcerting. But since you did bring this article up, is AI? You know what? I'm actually taking a little bit of a. I haven't asked you the usual because I just wanted to jump in on some of the stuff, but we actually had a little bit more good economic news. We had another week of actually stock market increases.
yeah.
We actually have a trade deal with the UK apparently, although nobody knows what the specifics are of that. So there has been some movement, some positive movement. So before we get into the AI threat here, Leland, how are you feeling about things this week?
Okay. I mean, stuff is moving. There is talks that there are stuff with China going on. Who knows what's going on with that though? But I do know that eventually at some point, one of the two people are going to break. China says that they're not going to break. U.S. says that they're not going to break, but someone's going to break. It's just going to happen. But yeah, it's nice to know that at least one country we got a trade agreement with. I've heard talks that India, there's I thought that it was all done, but it's like 90% there. So yeah, feeling a little optimistic.
Okay, a little optimistic. Shashi, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the tariff is just kicking in. A couple of things that I heard was consumers still continue to spend on things except for going to restaurants. And I was just looking at restaurant rates today in some of the reviews. An entree costing $29 seems like very high for me, right? And, for $29, I'd probably go to a restaurant for some really special occasion. So what I heard is consumers are still continuing to spend because they haven't seen the effect of the tariffs yet.
Mm.
So all the numbers that are coming out are very positive. I mean, I personally think if it is 40 to 50% of goods coming from China, probably a lot of Chinese companies are more affected than the American consumer right now, from what I'm seeing.
Before I follow up on that, Ramon.
Yeah, I think Shashi, as you said, just a point of context, it's interesting. I can remember going to Red Lobster. I love Red Lobster. I used to eat it more when I was before I was allergic to shrimp. But Shashi, I think the Red Lobster's highest menu is like $29. This point of context, Denny's and all that, right? 12, 13, 14, 15. So I just wanted to echo, that is pricey for the average middle class family. And then I think the only other thing, I'm feeling great, Brent, by the way, feeling great. And I think that if you look at the line from Howard Lutnick, I believe his name is pronounced that way, the Commerce Secretary. And here's the thing, gentlemen. He said, thanks to President Trump sealed the deal with England. If you watched mainstream, the proper TV channels, he said that they couldn't get it with England, but President Trump called the British Prime Minister, got it done, gentlemen. So this is what we see. He's going to call Modi. He's going to call the EU. President Trump is going to get it done with John.
With John. So John is on board now.
Always going to pull John in on any conversation about our president.
By the way, could you ask him to also call Xi if he's calling you directly? That would be a good one.
They're meeting in Europe, I believe it is. The negotiators are meeting in Europe with the other Chinese counterparts.
They
That's
should go out and get some curly fries. Just
yeah.
Chat it up a bit. All right, Mr. Ice, you've been called out. So
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing. I think the number is 4 or 7. I'm not sure. But this deal is 4 or 7% of actual product. So it looks great on headlines, but in reality, the EU is not a big bitch. But hey, if you score a field goal, you should cheer, even though you're 30 points down. But but here's the thing that really stood out to me, and I don't think we are really getting the whole story. And I really think I'm going to put together some kind of blog post or something. But the big story this week to me was where they were looking at the number of ships that were being brought in and the containers were not coming in. And I would really like to break down how many jobs or how many hours, man hours and jobs does it take for one container, just one. The ships have, hundreds, maybe thousands of containers, but one container has to go on one truck. That truck has to take that container across the country to wherever it's going. Truck stops right now are seeing half as much traffic as they normally see. So all the people that are working in a truck stop right now are not being fully engaged and employed. So those guys are not going to make as much money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all of these little components that are really going to be affected by this. I don't think we are really giving it the right frame of mind on how this is really affecting a lot of people, truck drivers, people that work on docking stations, package delivery people. Y'all don't understand, man. You can't just touch all, one little thing and don't think it has like downstream impacts. So I'm not as, happy-go-lucky as everybody. It's going to take a while to get through this kind of impact.
Let me ask you this. This is for everybody. Is this are we in the mirage state because right now we haven't felt any. I don't think the majority of the U.S. consumer hasn't really felt any of the pain that traditionally comes with tariffs, like the price increase. They aren't going to hit for a little while. So is this bit of good news just like almost like a little sip of water until the full-blown drought comes and we all start going in on each other? Or is this actually progress? I think we're kind of in a bit of a mirage state because like John was saying, I'm seeing things like the amount of stuff leaving China is like a fraction already. Like I think they've already been
35% less traffic.
Yeah, like 20 to 35%. And so that's not going to really impact the consumer for a while. So is this more of a, oh yeah, we are seeing some progress, or is this just like, yeah, see that nice mirage? It's going to go away eventually, and we're going to get hit over the head with all this stuff.
Yeah,
One thing. Go ahead, John. So one thing that.
All right, John, go.
Like
You go.
No, just look. It's like, look, just because you took the pregnancy test don't mean the baby's coming tomorrow.
That's good. That's
really
good, John.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's still coming. It just ain't coming right now.
That's right.
So you do have some time to prepare. It's not about, oh, we good. No, it's like you got some time, but it's still coming, right?
So in a couple of weeks, we'll start seeing empty shelves. That will lead to some panic buying. That's what we have to expect, simply because like there's a lot of uncertainty. People are not sending goods, right? So that's what I was thinking of. Hey, well,
and that's scary, Shashi, saying, hey, Ivana, checking about the empty shelves. That's scary. I remember those days of COVID, toilet paper. I mean, all those days, I don't want to those days. So, but that's a good point, Shashi. I hope none of this happens. I do hope, all joking aside, that I hope things go well. But yeah, it's scary. And again, remember, we don't know. I think we know that some of these things take long to come to fruition, as John said, right? The baby test is a great example. President Trump will not be in office in 3.5 years. That's a fact. So I know it's a bit early to talk about this, but I wonder.
You ain't asked him about that.
See, I don't see. Let me just pass the mic. This is why when I speak and I target you, John, you know why. Oh, that wasn't necessary. He will not be in office in 3.5 years. With the point I'm making.
Okay.
The point I'm making is that the tariff, all that stuff, I think that's a pinnacle of his presidency. I don't know if it is for J.D. Vance and others, who may be president. So anyhow, we can move on from that, Brent.
Okay. By the way, Ivana, we miss you, and Vegas is just fine. Believe me, I sent you a picture. I texted her a picture from the airport, but all around Vegas, nothing but people, and it was so damn annoying. Anyway, just let that out.
That's good news.
What is go well? What is tariff success? If I were a camera, wow, what would I see? As a small business owner, for example, well, Ivana is coming through, even if she's not on camera.
That's a good question. What does tariff success look like?
We've never been told. All we've been told is going to be really great. We don't know what it means, though.
I know what it means.
What does it mean?
As usual. Yeah, no, what it means, I think, is that is interpreting the Oval Office, and then even you let me know if I'm right, which I will be right, is that I think tariff success means there's more manufacturing, more production is made in the USA, and all the ripple effect that goes with it. That's what it means. I think that's what President Trump's goal is, right? He's that manufacturing comes back to the U.S. and whatever the ripple effect happens. I'm not an economist, so I can't speak further than that, but that's what it means.
Okay, but let me just jump in. You actually have to have some kind of actual metrics, not just these nebulous statements. We need some actual milestones, some things that we're shooting for, not just, oh, it's going to go up.
Fair enough.
You're right. A little bit more. And unfortunately, we have a president who doesn't like to give out information, or maybe it's because he doesn't really have it. But when's the last time he gave you some actual metrics to shoot for versus it's a big deal? I mean,
big, beautiful
I have
deal.
no idea. Yeah, I forgot the beautiful.
Yeah, you got to say the beautiful.
He's not a metrics guy.
He's not.
He's never been a metrics guy.
And it is. I think it actually, as small business people, does that kind of frustrate you a little bit? because how can you plan for your business if you don't have some things that these are the numbers? All right, good. Then I can start planning accordingly. It's kind of hard to do that when all you get is cloudy, nebulous talk. It's very hard to plan it. I know enterprises are finding it extremely hard to deal with that stuff.
I have one piece of news that's connected to something we discussed. Like, what about even small businesses who have ordered something, and now with the tariffs they can't afford to pay it? So I believe a lot of these bonded warehouses, their business is going up. Meaning people are saying, I don't need this now. Keep it in a bonded warehouse so I don't have to pay customs duty yet. And I will wait till the situation stabilizes. And in case the tariffs go away, that's when I'll take delivery of that. But it's an added cost anyway.
All right. I think we beat this one up a little bit. Speaking of a metric, I want to toss this out there. I think Lyft just came out. I don't know if they came out with their full-blown, earnings or not, but they came out with a metric that says they're seeing just as much or more traffic for their app service than they've seen, over the last 5 or 6 months. And they were saying that's, to them, that is a sign that the U.S. consumers are their confidence is growing. Are we going to start looking at kind of new metrics from certain companies not traditionally looked at as your kind of markers for where things are? Like, I would have never thought about foot traffic of Lyft is great. Oh, that means U.S. consumer confidence is up. I would have not made that distinction, but Lyft actually said they're seeing consumer confidence based on their Lyft. Is that something that we should really start paying more attention to? Like, if Uber says the same thing, or like Uber Eats, more people are ordering stuff. That's good. Or is it good? Because that means maybe they're not going into the actual stores anymore. How do we look at like these kind of newfound gig economy metrics as opposed to like the traditional things that we look at for seeing how the health of the economy is?
The leading indicator effect. No, I don't have a substantive answer on that, Brent. I think it's interesting. I don't know if Lyft is it, but I do think measuring other metrics to see what indicator of success or not, I think is good. But I think we have to be careful what we're measuring and what it means. Lyft, again, I'm not sold at what that means, but I could be off. But that doesn't excite me so much. I know they did come out with a new upgrade to their app for older people, which is bigger and less buttons. I saw that on Lyft announced too.
Man,
so.
John, you should be really. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh boy.
Let's move on.
I would love to see all the metrics. When it comes to like Lyft is coming out with their metrics, how does that compare to Uber? I saw a story that people are getting frustrated with Uber because prices are going up. There was a substantial investment, and I think BlackRock, and all of a sudden prices have started kind of skyrocket, according to this video that I saw. And this person's frustrated because he's getting less rates. So I would love to be able to see, compared to Uber, did Uber go down and Lyft go up? Because people are like, well, Lyft is a little bit cheaper. Let me go with Lyft versus Uber.
Hey, Leland, point in fact, that's exactly what I did in Vegas. I looked at Uber first. I was like, $57. Then I went over to Lyft, $20.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Wow.
57.
Yeah, I was going from the airport to the Palazzo. No, to Palazzo. It's at the farther end.
Yeah, that's on the strip.
Yeah.
Yeah, the strip.
But
That's
I like
crazy.
Lyft, and on the way back, I only paid $16 for Lyft. I looked at Uber; it was like in the 40s still.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I may switch now. I'm a Uber like 4.97 Diamond. We know your name, bro. User. I may switch to Lyft now. Wow.
I think it depends on what market.
Fair enough.
Because I think Atlanta.
I always look at both.
Yeah, I always.
But I've never looked at both. I just use Uber only.
I usually start with Uber, and if I'm like, what? This don't sound, and then I'll go to Lyft. I'm like, oh hell no, I'm not doing that. So yeah.
But to Leland's point, without the other side of the metric, I can't glean anything from there.
Yeah, you don't know if it's competitive competitive
Right.
yeah, you're right. So Uber has to come out. Of course, why would Uber come out and say if they're seeing
Losing.
yeah, they don't want to be seen as losing his lip. But anyway, I thought
No,
it was
no.
interesting. Are there any, like, personally, when you think about it, are there any companies that you look at? Like, remember, John, when we used to look at Amazon, that was like a something that we really paid a lot of attention to, not just for Amazon's sake, but like the repercussions for what it means for the bigger thing. Are there any companies you guys look at personally that you have that same kind of thing with?
I would guess Home Depot, Lowe's, and restaurants in general. Those are three things I could call, or two things, the Home Depot, Lowe's of the world, and then restaurants. That's just two indicators that could mean something.
The economy of a country, I think, can be judged by the amount of transactions that continuously take place. When that slows down, then it's an indication that something is wrong. I can give you an example of India, right? Like maybe 10 years ago, nobody knew what the transactions were because they were not electronic, and there was a whole parallel economy that was not part of the general economy. But that's changed so much. You literally, nobody pays in cash anymore. Where I'm going with this is, as the number of financial transactions keep on going, that's a metric that you can see. I think there's probably an index that I don't remember the name of that will tell you what the number of transactions and buying has gone up or gone down. That's what I would use.
Also, I bet QuickBooks and Paychex have a lot of that data in the U.S. But thank you, Shashi. You're right about transactions, but I bet QuickBooks is a good barometer in Paychex.
Well, ADP is actually, it seems like that's become a standard.
Yeah.
Kind of like a lead into the actual government numbers.
Correct.
The ADP payroll numbers. But I was just wondering if there are any like newfangled things that you've like paid a little bit closer attention to see how they're doing. Because I'll be honest, I haven't found any of those yet outside of what me and John used to do with Amazon. We really looked at that, and we just kind of got away from that. But Walmart, John, that's usually your one that you tend to talk a lot about. Walmart
Looking good.
I didn't say all that, but
I'm serious. They came in with some good information recently.
Right.
Yeah.
The Made in America initiative.
A lot of Made in America. I just
Matter of
noticed
fact,
the new Ford commercial that came out.
look at this here. Look at this.
Oh,
Wow.
yes. Yeah, that program.
Right. From that talk, somebody explain what this is about.
So Walmart every year does their pitch competition, right? And so I think they're merging those two together and looking for stuff that's made in the US. And then what do they got? Some financing for companies that they find that are US made. Is that what that is, Leland? I didn't read your story.
I didn't read it either.
You didn't read it either. But yes, Walmart is trying to, which is so weird because you think, Walmart, I think it's a good move for Walmart because a lot of their stuff is made in China. So I think it's a good move on them to try to find new manufacturers and to encourage more manufacturing with U.S. companies.
But John, go ahead, Brenton.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, John, can we just admit, though, that like you said, the example, because you have a pregnancy test doesn't mean the baby's here. We all know because we're in this business. All these headlines and stuff, the PR team gets together with the executive, with the president. They publish this stuff. How much this stuff really happens? When does it stop? We don't know. So that's good. I'm glad you spun this trend. I'm just saying, all these things, we go through press releases all the time, right? Amazon announces it's helping disadvantaged Martians. We don't know what it looks like in 6 months. So the headlines ahead.
Yeah, agree. This is why I didn't jump on the DEI thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, John, but when all the stuff was going on with Amazon, they were buying all these data centers up and things like, because all that real estate market just kind of, the commercial real estate market kind of crashed. So they were buying all this stuff and making data centers. I said, wouldn't it be cool if a company like Amazon would buy some of these properties up and create manufacturing as a service? So like they had their small business customers be able to, send them like a design and have it manufactured here locally. And I'm still surprised why nobody has done something like that, because look at all the real estate that has been available at like dirt cheap. They all went to make data centers, which is fine, but why not some manufacturing as a service? Let's see, not mass. Yeah, yeah. Why haven't we seen something like that? Why haven't we seen other big companies that like even the Googles or the Met? They've got they making $20 billion a quarter in profit. They could set something up, and I'm sure the government would probably give them some tax credits for doing that. Why haven't we seen some initiatives like that take place? If manufacturing on the homeland is such a big thing.
It's a good point.
And
No, I think you make a good point.
yeah, it is a very good point. And I mean, being in the area where our data center is and seeing them buy up property, work with the local government to get tax breaks, they get tons of tax breaks, but it brings in tons of construction jobs. The cement that goes into making those data centers, boy, do they pour a lot of cement. And the HVACs and all of the jobs that they bring in just to make the data centers, not the components that go into it, but everything that goes into just the housing of it. And then after that, all of the jobs, the high paying tech jobs that come out of it, it's like, yeah, we basically give them land tax free. They don't pay taxes on the land, but the amount of money that comes in just off of like the workers and off of the constructions, the sales of all the materials is huge. It's been a huge boom to our economy. And I would love to be able to see that as a manufacturing, just one more step. It's kind of the same process. You're building the same kind of buildings. Instead of making data centers, you're just making tchotchkes, little dog figurines.
I think if the goal is to get more manufacturing back, all right, maybe you use some tariffs, but you also do stuff like this. I mean, it makes a lot of sense instead of kind of jamming something down people's throats that is going to have somewhat of a potentially blockbuster impact in a not positive way. Maybe you pepper in these kind of things where you get all these huge companies and give them some credits to start doing that kind of stuff. I would love to see stuff like that.
I want to share I want to share a very positive entrepreneurship story that's connected with what we're discussing. And if I may, Brent, this is actually my niece.
Oh,
so
nice.
I have another Dr. Bellam Kunda, who's a cousin of mine. She's always been advocating people to have low carb diet, high protein diet, and patients are happy. So her daughter goes off to college and says, "What am I doing in college? I need to go back. Mom, you have some good advice. I'm going to start a low carb bakery, lowcarbavenue.com." Now I've been watching their struggles and finding a place to do this. They are off in Frederick, Maryland. But it's a very positive story because their delivery is through Amazon, right? And now they actually opened up a storefront where people are coming and buying it from the storefront. They go to farmers markets, which I think is a great marketing strategy for small businesses. Now, attached to that is Walmart now covers almost 95% of the US for, I think, either same-day delivery. I think it's same-day delivery.
Wow.
Now, what that means for small businesses is that Walmart's infrastructure is not just for Walmart. You could be a third-party seller and almost get the same thing. So, Leland, when your business starts making those tchotchkes, they can ship anywhere in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Because of this infrastructure that's built. I feel like these companies, because they're emboldened to or responsible to shareholders, don't do any social things which they could do by encouraging more manufacturing. And like Ramon said, there is some team that says like small business entrepreneurship, but they don't pay as much attention as they should. So now Amazon has seen this and said like, oh my God, in 5 years' time, Walmart will be doing so much of e-commerce from small businesses. We need to do that. And that's why they also announced an investment in very unserved rural areas for logistics, right?
And
So
and
things
Josh, what was the link of your niece's website? You said something.com. What was the link again?
lowcarbavenue.com.
I love that. What a nice domain. Lowcarbavenue.com. Let's all go there. Carbavenue.com. I'm not going to be a customer because I want more carbs, but I like the site. Lowcarbavenue.com. Very nice.
Until the
website is
doctor
good
tells
too.
you.
The
Until the
website is
doctor
very
tells
well
you not to
designed.
have. Yeah. I
So-
actually was at the farmers market stand last week. A lot of farmers markets, I think, need a lot of encouragement.
That's probably true. Until they start raising their prices insanely. Like, anyway, I digress. All right.
Either that or they get filled up with MLMs.
Like I don't know what just happened.
That was through my site. I deleted it.
Okay. I was wondering, well, how did they go away like that? All right, that's great.
Hey, and by the way, Brent, Leland talked about them making tchotchkes. Well, if you all didn't know, I'm the exclusive holder of a Wiener whistle. I got this from Oscar Mayer's truck in my shop, right? It's a Wiener whistle. So this is the kind of thing, Leland, you're saying people should make in the factories.
Oh, yeah.
Wiener whistle, probably like 2 cents to make, and you can sell this and give this to those who want to blow on a Wiener whistle. So it is what it is.
I'm waiting for the Oscar Mayer Wiener mobile to like crash through.
Yeah, that's
this
where I saw it. That's
wall.
where I got it from. I came to the guy and said, hey.
He's calling the
hot
Oscar Mayer
dogs.
Wiener mobile.
Exactly. And he's like,
Make
no,
this
we
house.
don't sell hot dogs. All we have is these Wiener whistles. And he gave me one. Okay, Brent, please take the show. And please let's move forward, please, quickly.
I don't really know what to say at the moment, but okay, let's move on.
How do you top that? That's just
I have
it's
zero
peak right
idea.
now.
I have zero idea. But since Ramon, since you were talking there, this is one that you picked out. You wanted to talk about. Trust is a business metric now. Here's how leaders can earn it. What is this about?
Yeah, I think that what's interesting when I see an article like this is that all that we're talking about, Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, ushered into about the attention economy. All of us in business are trying to get somebody's attention. But I think the second thing that's most important, how do we gain trust? So when I see an article like this, I just like the aspect of how do you, especially how leaders, either you're producing content, that's important as well. That's one thing. But I think also when this word, you see the fourth word here, soft skills, I think as leaders, as companies, we still have to go back to being human. So that's, I think, what was interesting about this. We still have to go back to being human. All the technology, all that we're doing, we say this at the end of our show, we still got to be nice people, still got to be good people, still got to build relationships. And I think that every leader can do that. So that's what this is about.
I want to react to that, Brent.
Sure.
In fact, they have to do it. And I'll tell you why. Like one of the principles of Google is also trust, right? For your website. Now, if you don't have a picture of the person who owns the website, some information on what they're doing, there's no trust on the website because they don't know who owns this. Is this so? All of the things that you're saying, I think people have to convey into. I'm a human being. I'm a business owner. Here's my story. Right. That's definitely a must-have, in my opinion.
Isn't it? Hasn't it? Kind of always been. I mean,
It's always been, but people don't practice that.
Yeah. It's always been.
There are some industries out there that are more dependent on trust than others. I would say something like a restaurant. You've got to have high trust that food is going to come out cooked well.
Yes.
It's not going to be overcooked. It's not going to be, in an area where it's infested with pests or anything like that. So you've got to be able to trust that the food is going to be good. There are going to be there are people like electricians. You got to trust that electrician is going to do it properly and not burn down your house. You got to trust that your plumber is not going to do the job haphazardly. And I have a friend who's a plumber. He almost killed an entire family because he almost didn't do the job properly, but he went back, checked his work, and found the little leak that would have gas would have escaped into the house. But he has to do it right, and you have to be trusted to make sure that it gets done correctly.
Is he still your friend?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Is his name Joe? Was Joe the plumber? No, sorry.
His name is Drex.
Drex the plumber doesn't quite have the same as Joe, but anyway.
But
All right, but
yeah,
is that a little bit more than just trust though? Because you would want to see certifications before you hire somebody, right? You want to see reviews, so it's not necessarily just about trust. It's I forget who said trust but verify. I can't remember who came up with that. But I think there's
Reagan is attributed saying, I don't know if he made it up, but Reagan is who popularized it, I think.
I think a lot of this stuff is like if you call a plumber, if you need a plumber, you either ask somebody you know who had plumbing work, and you're like, who did you use? And so it's you trust them more than you trust the actual plumber at that point, because you haven't made a decision yet. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of I think that maybe the key here is measuring trust, like some way to actually put a number, a percentage, a score. And I know there's a lot, like you look at things like G2 for software applications and things like that. So it's not a new thing, but is it even more important than it was before? Because a lot of you could see somebody put up this great digital front on a website, or what they're putting up on LinkedIn or what they're putting up on social, so they can really look great. And then you have to deal with or use them, and you find out this is nothing. So maybe there's, I guess, who do you trust to measure trust? Like, how do you make sure that you're going down the right path by looking at some kind of hard line trust metric?
I think also, Brent, depends on what we're measuring. I mean, fairness, you're talking about something transactional. It's low friction. Maybe we don't care. Talking about Amazon.com, which you and John know well, but didn't that take a few years to build and promises, versus my friend Robert Kennedy III. Some of you may know him. He spoke for me at an event. First time, seriously, Robert Kennedy III.
Not the third. I thought you were talking about juniors.
A friend of mine, his name is similar. It's a friend of mine. He spoke at an event that I was at. My point being, that was a small level of trust. So my point is that I think it all depends on what context it is. I think the five of us here, right, including Ivana, there's a measure of trust we have, 6 of us here. So anyways, I think trust it depends on where you're talking about, what the context is, et cetera.
Yeah, Ivana makes a good point about the Edelman Trust Barometer. I've been kind of using that for over a decade. I mean, I've been looking at that for over a decade. I don't know how much I've used it, but I have actually been looking at it for over a decade.
Yeah, consumer trust in trust other consumers. So the review process that not even Amazon, I'm sorry, eBay started years ago of rating your purchases. It's probably one of the most trusted source out there. That's why we have Reddit showing up so much in reviews or searches now, is because people trust what other people say in mass.
Well, that so and Google made a partnership with them. I'm sure that kind of helps too.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're looking for something and you get a Reddit thread and you're like, okay, you start reading through what people say, that will influence your purchasing decision.
I think that's true. I go a lot to Facebook and look up what some of the influencers say, not like the celebrity influencers, but like the folks who know products inside and out. Like I'm all on, computer stuff, on camera stuff. And there are some great folks that they're not flashy. They don't even have the biggest audiences, but they get to the right people because the right people see, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this lady is sharp. And then we follow those folks. And it goes, and because you look at them and you don't feel like they're trying to sell you anything, you look at them as because, oh man, this guy knows it inside and out. I need to listen to him or her. So I think there's a lot of that, but maybe from a systematic standpoint, there isn't a system of trust. There are these pockets of trust, like Eva does point out, Edelman Barometer, Gallup for some folks. But it's kind of hard to have a universal system of trust because there's just absolutely no way that could happen.
No, you can't. I mean, I get one example here. I fly United Airlines a lot. My trust with them has increased. Why? Getting off the plane, they gave me a little cost them nothing. Thank you card. Congratulations, Ramon, 30 years. So silly example, but look, I keep it next to me. It meant something to me, United Airlines. So that's just a pocket, an example. They furthered trust. Whatever it meant, it's just small little stupid card, but it meant something to me.
But here's the question, Ramon. I mean, you fly United. Did you hear about the story about that man who got to the airport? He was 50 minutes before his flight, and basically he got berated by a bunch of the people because he couldn't check in. He's like, I want to check in. No, you're too late. And they had a big altercation. This was within the last couple of days, and it's been all over the news.
It's Frontier.
Would something like that shake your trust a little bit, because all of a sudden
he was late. I'm never late. I'm 2 hours before my flight. What an idiot.
Yeah, I agree. He was an idiot. He should have been there a little bit earlier.
Moron.
But there was no there was no compassion. There was no, let's work with you. It was, you have these two agents who are just like, no, no compassion, cold, get the hell out of the line, get out of my personal space.
That wasn't United, Leland. That was Frontier.
Oh, it's Frontier.
Obviously.
Oh, well,
there we
that
go.
changes everything.
United
He's only
would
paying
never do that.
$15 for the seat.
And I
Come
think
on out, John. United would
those
never do
agents don't have a job now.
Yeah. And you
that.
also
they
said-
don't.
Was just testing
So
me.
they've been fired?
Yeah.
Okay.
They probably work for
were-
United
that,
now.
they were
that would
really
actually increase my trust in them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my hierarchy, Brent and everybody else, is family recommendations, friends recommendations. Number 3 is neutral sites like Consumer Reports or neutral review sites. Number 4 is review sites like Reddit or anything else. Then I would go to the website to see if they are still in business. What are some things that they are saying about that? That's the way I would look at them.
When I hear Consumer Reports, and I know they still do a lot of, actually, I had a chance to interview one of their folks over there. How many folks in the generations underneath ours even looks at Consumer Reports? I mean,
Those magazines back in the day were like National Geographic, man. PC Magazine, National Geographic, Consumer Reports. Those are the magazines we all.
I don't
read,
think
man.
I looked at the Consumer Reports one like I looked at the National Geographic back.
It's
in
a
the
little
day,
different,
but-
but meaning I remember the magazines that you'd get in the library or the mail and see the ratings and the washer systems and all that. I thought it was pretty cool.
All right, let's get
I'm still a subscriber of Consumer Reports.
No,
I
you don't.
never buy a thing that
I get
Consumer
it too.
Reports says is not good.
I get it too. Still, I mean, it's cheap, and you get access to all their digital stuff too.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you guys this, like a quick: what magazine did you love growing up? Do you miss the most?
Mad.
Oh, I love Mad.
Boys Life.
Electronic
Never
Gaming
got
Monthly.
Frozen.
Yeah, Boys Life. That was like a hunting and knives and all kind of outdoorsy stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
But sorry, Leland, I stepped on you. What'd you say? Say it again.
Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Okay.
Really? That was a magazine?
It was a magazine.
Yeah.
I got it all the time.
Wow.
Business wise, I used to like PC Mag.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
I love
all
PC
into,
Mag.
yeah,
Thick-
I used to
man,
love
those were like thick, juicy ones. Oh
With-
yeah.
With Dvorak.
Yes, John
Yeah.
Dvorak. Yeah.
Yeah.
PC Magazine was good. CNET also, didn't they have the big table?
There are
table-
so many back. Remember Computer Mag? That huge.
Oh
that
yeah,
thing
the
was
thin
like-
but the huge. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Wow.
I'm going to go with Jet Magazine, and
Okay.
the page I missed the most is page 43. There's a reason for that. Only service. Anyway,
I mean, for me, Reader's Digest has stayed with me from
Yeah,
childhood,
Reader's
and I
Digest
still
is good.
subscribe to them.
I love Reader's Digest. It was. What's that story, Shasha? They used to have the main story in there, like the long form story of a guy running from a bear, a lady whose car was stuck
Yep.
in the canyon, whatever it was. Yeah.
all right, let's end with the one I was going to start with. Funny how that worked. AI's threat to Google just got real. Now, this came from the article that apparently John didn't read that he sent me. So I don't know if it makes sense for me to ask you what did this article really mean, but
No,
Wanna
I
take a
just
shot at
what are you kidding? Absolutely. Basically, this is the first quarter that they're seeing that Google did not maintain 90% or more of all search engine. traffic.
I thought they said
And
it's been a couple of months. Well, I
was
guess you
it?
said a quarter. I thought it said
Yeah.
it's been like 5 or 6 months since it's actually been over 90% or something like that.
Right, something crazy like that, and that's a little concerning. I think when people are, looking at the metrics, it's like, okay, there's a chink in the armor, and if you think about it, when it comes to search, I remember when Google, this is how old I am. I remember when Google did that to Yahoo, and then look where we are 20 years later. So I think AI and its advancements are on such a trajectory in
Yep.
terms of usage and adoption that Google probably are seeing some things and signals that might be somewhat threatening to their model, and their model is just eyeballs,
Yep.
so they can serve, advertising.
And John, I think that to that point, John, I think the secondary threat, as all of us are publishers in some way, me and Leland, do that for a living, our publications. But I think that, John, I'm seeing the threat to even what I'm building. I'm wondering, I don't know where it'll be, but this zero-click search, saying it scares me is exaggerated, but it's a serious thing. The other article, I think, Brent, that Shashi sent, I read that one, the Wall Street Journal one. It talks about MailChimp. It had a profile on MailChimp and other companies, how they're really rethinking this zero-click search. It's a real deal. I mean, but I must say one thing, metaphorically, but a real thing. I just got a speaking gig lead 2 days ago. A lady said she found me through AI. I was happy, but that goes back, which is also in the article, again, that I'm in a small way, my own little world here, doing something right with all the content I produce, where I'm afraid of it, the zero-click search. But since I produce so much content, I think she was looking
Right.
for like speaker for this, that, and the other. I asked her. She said, you came via AI. I said, okay. So,
Well,
So-
by the way, those searches, particularly like Perplexity, when you search for something, it not only gives you like whatever the summary or whatever,
Right.
it gives you the list of links that it's actually sourced from.
correct.
And I think that's a key point to kind of remember as well. And then I think the other thing is, like John, you were talking about, it's under 90%. But is it because the pie is still growing and AI is actually getting more of the bigger pie, and that so maybe Google's still getting the same kind of numbers, but because AI is making it easier and easier for people to find stuff, the overall search pie is growing. And because I saw Bing was still only like 3%.
3.2%.
Yeah, 3.2%. So, but I'm guessing that because AI makes everything much easier, or at least makes certain things easier to find, easier to do, because it's making it easier. That means more people are doing it, which means the pie is actually growing, which even though Google's percentage might be inching smaller, since the pie is bigger, they're still getting probably the same amount of actual search transactions.
I think
So-
behaviorally is what the big issue is.
Yeah, I give you that.
Is that consumer behavior is changing, and the concept of us. See, if you think about it like this, why is TikTok? Why did TikTok take off? TikTok took off because they moved from and I'm just going to use quotes, from a search kind of play where people would actually subscribe to your channel and all that, to a discovery type play. And that changed everything in terms of, should I have subscribers, and the people that subscribe get to see my stuff. It changed that whole game, right? And I think what's happening now with AI is changing the whole game as well. So people, straight search, when they're talking about it, I don't think we're talking about the perplexities of the world. We're talking about information that's being given to me, and then it makes recommendations, and those recommendations are clickable links to actual products that we could use.
I
And
don't
I'm
know
not
if we
even
are or
searching
not.
for that.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, how is search being defined now as opposed to like 10, 15 years? I have no idea how that's working. But let's look at it this like you were saying about TikTok, and they changed the game. But then YouTube came out with YouTube Shorts, and I'm guessing there's probably close to the same number of people on just YouTube Shorts. I'm not talking about YouTube proper. So Google is, and I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. They got like 8 properties where they have over 1 billion active monthly users. Those folks ain't going nowhere. I don't know. At least they ain't going completely off of I was going to say the plantation, but that's probably not. So they're going off the property. All right. But they have so many of us entrenched. It's not just search, it's the apps, it's YouTube, it's YouTube TV now. It's like you said, maps. And all that is people creating data. And it's also driving Google's AI. And their AI, that Gemini stuff is really good. And it seems to be getting better. That's why Apple is having such a problem. They completely missed the boat when it comes to actual AI. They could have been. I'm not going to say they could have.
I don't know. We'll talk about that later. But I don't know if they actually. I'm actually starting to think Apple didn't. I don't think the boat is all that big. I don't think they missed it. Actually, I think there's plenty of time right now for them to jump in.
Yeah, they will never be viewed as a leader. I will say.
No, but have they ever been viewed?
But they can do it through acquiring. They can acquire a company. They can do it through acquisition,
which they did to jump into AI in general.
Yeah, they also tried to build a car company. That didn't work.
No, that didn't work.
There's going to be hits and misses, but they got a lot of people ingrained into their culture. People are always going to buy their phones, always going to buy their laptops. And once they figure out AI, they have the perfect vehicle to just plop it into everyone's hands. They got a built-in audience ready, frothing at the mouth to be able to use it. And it'll just go off immediately. They don't have to worry about being late to the game as long as they get to the game eventually.
And they have their AI, and they're one of the pillars of a hyperscaler. I mean, people are using Google Cloud, and they're also using all their AI stuff. I mean, I use in Google proper, I use their AI mode quite a bit, and it is getting better and better. So I don't see how AI could be a competitive threat to Google because Google is as AI as anybody else at this point.
It's a competitive threat because of the properties. You know, I mean, you go to a website today and Google really got big on having all these little clickable links on one single page. You're not going to be able to do that in the AI world. And I think that's going to affect the amount of money that they can bring in.
I think it'll make them have to rejigger things. But when you have billions of people doing multiple things on your platforms, you got some time and you got some opportunity, regardless if it kind of cannibalizes certain aspects of your traditional business. They're going to find a way to make it up on some of this new stuff.
Yeah,
I
definitely think so.
Too big to fail.
I have a session exclusively on this in our live conference because a lot of our clients have been talking to us. 2 trends they've noticed is number 1, organic traffic is coming down because of 0 clicks. But it's actually an opportunity. And the opportunity is that if your business is good, if your content is good, like Ramon Reyes is, when you're coming up in the answers in any of these LLMs, right, you have a better chance that they're going to click through and come, which means that people who are higher in intent are going to come to your website more. So conversions will remain the same or they'll go up.
Yeah.
I think Google is going to change their whole, here's the way you have all these links, go figure it out yourself. That's why they've started saying, how can we make the AI mode and also get our advertising money, right? So that's the study they're doing quite a bit on that. They've come down to 90%, which is where they were 10 years ago. It's not difficult for them to go back to 95%, but it's also an opportunity for Bing. I mean, if you're a small business, pay attention to Bing also along with Google.
And Bing does have vastly search results. But to your point, Shashi, about my content, for example, everybody here right now can test. If you put on, for example, how can I get Ramon Ray to host and speak at my event? You put that in ChatGPT, see what happens. How can I get Ramon Ray to host or speak at my event or keynote my event? Or is Ramon Ray the best keynote speaker in the world? Put that in the ChatGPT. Put that in your search engine. See what happens. Okay, I'm done.
Oh,
Very nicely slid in there, I have to say.
oh my God.
And we are at the top of the hour, so
Yeah, let that one rest.
I think we already got Ramon's closing argument.
That's it. I'm done, Brent. Move on. I'm done.
All right, Shashi. Oh, by the way, Shashi, could you put those links to the things you were talking about in the actual comments?
No,
so
I
that
actually put it in a private thing.
Yeah, I know. Could you actually put it in the comments so that people can, when they're watching this on replay, they can actually see and all that stuff?
And your
Okay.
niece's bakery thing with the low
Oh,
fat,
yeah.
non-vegan, non-cholesterol, non-fat bakery.
Yeah.
Sure,
Wow,
no, I'll do that too. No, thank you. I think it's an interesting period. Whatever are the basic principles, I think all of us have said is still be human, tell your story like it is. Don't go for anything artificial, like developing content for machines.
But we've been developing stuff for machines since, well, before Google, because you're not using natural language, or we haven't been using natural language to do our searches. We've been putting in keywords and stuff because computers know how to speak that stuff more than humans do. So I like the impact of we're getting closer and closer to natural language. Now that could be a disruptive opportunity for this AI stuff from some of the other folks. But I just have a suspicion that Google is just as smart in that regard as they were and all this other stuff. Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, have a good weekend and love your mama.
Very nice. Very nice. Leland.
Going back to that trust metric, you as a small business owner don't got access to these barometers, these big reports to get your trust out there. The biggest one is going to be word of mouth and also your Google rating. Make sure that you're on top of those, because I'm looking for a 2-car garage, metal garage. There's a place just down the street. It has a 2-star rating. I'm not going to go with them because there have been multiple stories, not just one, multiple stories of it takes years. There's big delays. That's going to be the thing that affects you as a small business. So stay on top of your reviews. Make sure that you're friendly to your customers so that when people are recommending, they're recommending you.
I love the practical nature of that, because sometimes we forget we're all up in the sauce with all this high tech mumbo jumbo. Sometimes you just need to break it down like Leland did. Leland from Oregon. I'm guessing that's what Oregon is like. Just breaking it down and making it simple for the folks. I have a joke, but I'm not going to tell it.
After the cameras roll.
Yeah, I want to end on a positive note. All right. And my positive note is have a great weekend. And if you need a little entertainment, need to blow off a little steam, 5:00 today, Eastern, when I torch John Colorize Lost.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I heard it last week while walking.
Yeah, I tried to
Did
take
you?
it. I tried to take
You didn't hear no torching, right?
I was trying to take it easy.
It's always a good show. It is a good show.
Anyway, thank you for the what is that? The Oscar Mayer whistle that you were blowing there.
A wiener whistle. Wiener whistle.
I'm just gonna say Oscar Mayer. I don't want.
That's what he called it.
I know. I don't want to call it that. All right. Have a great weekend, folks. We will see you next Friday. I was almost going to say, and if it's Friday, it's small business. I'm not doing that. Here we go. Have a great weekend.